It's Emily Taylor here in my studio. It is November 22nd at 11 o'clock Mountain Time. Today we are smack dab in the middle of the 12 days of Christmas, and I am absolutely loving what I see in the Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group. This is so fun. I had no idea that it would be so fun for me to see what you all are creating, and so thank you for participating. I hope that you are enjoying it. And so yeah, thanks so much for participating. Okay, so today I have a couple things that I want to share with you. I've got everything laid out here. So let me just, as you may know by now, hello, Sherry. Hello, everybody. This is the block for today. Oh, doesn't that look so pretty? I just love it. So super, super simple. And these leaves and berries we're going to use on some subsequent blocks as well. But we had to have one that was just full on holly berries. Okay. So this one you'll see I've quilted. Now I want to talk, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate a really easy way to make these leaves and of course the berries. So this is a super, super simple block. And then we're going to talk about the quilting, and we're going to move into how to connect the blocks once we've quilted them. Okay, so let's start out first of all with the with this design. Okay, so I have up here, this is the template for today. And of course, the idea is that I'm going to trace. Oh, I need a pencil. Amelia, can you? Oh, here's a pencil. Okay, here's a pencil. Great to see everybody chiming in. I love to see where you're from. Kentucky and South Africa and Atlanta and Germany. This is really fun. Okay, so as you know, I'm going to trace this out. But the great thing about this is there are very few value changes, so it makes it really super simple, right? So there's my tracing. The next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a hodgepodge of collage over the top of that drawing. I'm not going to try and keep it in the lines. The one thing I want to show you too, so I've done two of them so that I can show you. Look at the back here. So this will make it really, really easy for me to cut it out. Now you can see there's the line for this one. This is what I'm suggesting is after you have this traced out, take the template and flip it over, and then make sure that when you add fabric to your parchment paper, and parchment paper is the same on both sides, so it doesn't matter which side you draw on and which side you adhere fabric to. So then I'm going to take the fabric pieces that I've selected, and I'm just going to cut them and make them fit, or actually overlap on the outside, okay, like I've done right here. So when I flip it, then I can see it really, really well. If I don't flip it, that's okay. I can still see it enough to cut it out. So then I'll take my scissors. Let me grab my scissors. And I'm going to just cut this out. Let me tip this a little bit so you can take a look, see? Okay, so now I'm just going to cut this out. I am using my fabric scissors to cut. I've pressed it all, right? I've taken this so everything has been pressed down and all the fabric pieces are sticking together. So you can bang out a bunch of these holly leaves really quickly. And with this one that I'm cutting right now, you can kind of see that I did pay attention that, you know, this is a lighter value than this dark one. And so we're going to see how this turns out. Again, look how easy that is. I'm just following along the tracing. This is probably the easiest block that we've got. So for those of you who are wanting to get caught up, let me put myself back on the screen. So for those of you who are wanting to get caught up, today's a good day to, you can bang this out really, really fast. Okay, so there is a leaf. Now these leaves, the thing of it is they're cute, right? But they really come to life when you do the quilting. Okay, so I would recommend doing like I did. I think I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a cluster of berries there. These really come to life when you stitch on them and when you quilt them. And so I selected a thread color that was lighter. You could also go darker, although some of this is really, really dark. So I needed a high contrast thread. So I chose a bright green thread to quilt these, and I just love the way it turned out. I think I've got it upside down. There we go. Okay, so the other thing that I'm going to show you real quick is just a reminder. Now, I did demonstrate, there's a recorded video that I put in the Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group that talks about creating what I call a Sass template, Sass meaning steam a seam template. So let me just show you real quick with the berries what I mean by that, okay? So if I put my template back on my little workstation. Amelia's here today. Yay. So will you kind of be moderating questions and I'll answer questions as I go?
Yeah.
Okay, so here is the way to do, this is what I call a Sass template, and this is how I would approach the berries. So you can see, let's just start with that big one right there. I'm going to peel away a little bit. I'm going to peel the paper away from the steam a seam, okay? And then I'm going to lay that down and I'm going to trace it like that. So pencil, where did you go? Grab another pencil. So this allows me to make sure that I get kind of a round berry like that, easy peasy. And then I'm going to put that back against my fabric and press it again if I need to. And then I've got the perfect template. So that helps me make sure that I've got a round berry. Let's cut that out. And then I will just add a little snippet of fabric for the shadow and a lighter color for the, so there's my berry. And then I selected a fabric that's quite a bit lighter. That will be my my highlight. And then I've got a piece of fabric that's quite a bit darker. So this is these are high contrast, right? So there's my berry. Let me just take a little snippet. I kind of make the highlight half moon shape like that. I peel the paper off that, and sometimes it's easier to cut it off, to cut it after you've peeled the paper away. So there is a little berry that's got a highlight on it, and I never make the highlight go all the way to the edge. I always leave a little bit there. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the little shadow with a darker piece of fabric. I'm going to just take just a little snippet of this, and there. Okay, so there's a little berry, and I love this berry because it has patterned fabric still. You know, I love patterned fabric. So there's a little shadow down there and a little highlight, and that is perfect. And then as far as quilting it, I just take my red thread and go around in a circle. Let me show you the close-up of the quilting again on this. So, and I'll post some pictures in the Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group as well, some close-up pictures. Okay, so let's talk now about construction because we're getting, this is now our 7th block. So we're getting to the point where we need to start selecting background fabric and kind of laying things out. And I want to give you an idea of what we're doing, how we're going forward with this. So we are doing a quilt as you go method, quilt as we go. And I found I really, really enjoy this. This is a small enough block that I can have a lot of fun on my domestic machine. I always match the thread to the background, except in the case where I'm creating veins in a leaf. But the rest of it, like you can't even see the thread back here. But the majority, so I've quilted, I want to show you all the things that I've quilted. I've done everything so far except the Nutcracker, and I'll do him today. Here is the present, the gift. Okay, again, matching thread for each color change. And you've seen the gingerbread man. Now, what I want to point out is the blocks, the size of the background, foundation background that I'm using is 11 inches. Okay, so the background for each of these is 11 inches, but the back side is 12 inches. It's 1 inch larger. So if you are doing, 10-inch blocks or 12-inch blocks, make sure that whatever you select for your back is going to be 1 inch larger. That will leave a 1/2 inch all the way around. Now the other thing too is I've trimmed up my batting so that it is the same size as the front of the block. Now, if you're smart, go ahead and cut your batting to 11 inches so that it completely matches the front of the block and then quilt it. I wasn't super smart, but it's not a big deal. It's super easy to trim this, and I want to show you how to do that. So because I want to trim the batting off so that it matches the block. So the way I do that is I just go back here and I fold this, and I can press this back so that it's out of the way, and then I can cut really easily along that line. And I just trim the batting right along the edge of the block. Like I said, if you have not done your quilting yet, you can match the batting to the size of the front of the block, or if you have any ski-wampus stuff going on, and your batting is a little bit larger, go ahead and trim it like I've done so that all of your blocks ultimately look like this. Uh-oh, we don't want that. Someone from Hawaii. Okay, so that's what your blocks are going to look like. So I've shown you, this one is in progress because I wanted to show you how to trim it. I've trimmed these other two, and then the idea is we are going to be stitching these blocks together. So we will, when they are trimmed up, we're going to be stitching back sides together. We'll put the back sides together, stitch along that line, and then it will look like this when we open it, and we'll have the seam in the front. Okay, this seam is where we're going to do a little sashing. So this is how we're going to be connecting the blocks, and don't feel like you need to connect all the blocks as you go. I would recommend just getting them all quilted and ready to go. So that's where we're at. Okay, just continue to work on your blocks, get them quilted. Remember to just make your back side 1 inch larger than your front, and trim up your batting to match the front so that you don't have excess bulk here. And then this seam, these two things just line up perfectly. Now I am quilting with, the way I did this was, it's about, I used my number 1 regular foot, and I just slid it over as far as it could. So you can quilt it, right along that edge, or you can give yourself 1/8 of an inch so that when it opens up, it lays flat. Okay, so that's that. Let's take a look now at questions. And I know there are a few questions that I want to address real quick before I get to your questions. Number one are downloads. Every single day the patterns are being sent out. In fact, I can actually see and confirm, I do, for if anybody has not received the pattern, what I do is I go into my email the delivery service, and I can look and see if that email has been delivered. In every single case, the email has been delivered. So sometimes it might have gone into your spam or your junk email. You need to just look for it there. Even if some of them came through okay, before you email me, please look in your junk mail, because I guarantee that it's there.
And tell them how they can search. They can search for collage quilter. They can search for the pattern.
Okay. Yeah. So another thing to do as well, with most of your email providers, you can do a search at the top. The emails are always coming from Emily at Collage Quilter. So you can do a search by that. That will pull up everything that's come from me, or you can do 12 Days of Christmas search, and that should also pull up any of the emails. Okay. So are there any other questions or comments?
There was an issue with the gingerbread.
Yes. Okay. There was an issue with the gingerbread download. I have fixed that. So if you are not able to, if your computer was not able to generate the PDF, or you were not able to print the PDF for the gingerbread, please email me. I'll send you the updated file. Okay. So you can always, for any problem, just email me, emily@collagequilter.com. And as soon as we are done with this, Amelia and I are going to hop on our emails and make sure that everybody has been taken care of. Okay. So, let's see. Let's get to questions now.
I think another question.
Oh, another question Amelia had that.
If people join today, like if they buy the pattern today,
Okay.
do you want to clarify how that works?
Okay. So let me make one more clarification. Amelia made a really good point. She said, so if you're starting late, like if you purchase the patterns today, when you purchase the pattern, it will have everything up until today. So you'll get the first 7 patterns, and then starting tomorrow, you'll get 8, and you'll get the subsequent patterns. So don't worry about starting late. You'll get everything, and that's easy peasy. Okay. Does that answer that question?
Yeah. Along with that, some people have been confused with the format that they're getting the pattern. Like if they purchase them late, clarify that they come in an email all together.
Okay.
And it's like your purchase order email or whatever.
Okay. Great question. So when you purchase the pattern at collagequilter.com, when you make that initial purchase, there will be a screen on your confirmation page. You can wait for just a minute and it will say, okay, download ready. And then you click that button and it will download everything to your computer. Now, a lot of times, if you don't have a Mac, if you're working on a PC, a lot of times that download happens behind the scenes. So a lot of times people will download something multiple times, not knowing that they need to then go into their download file or wherever their downloads go and access the file. So that's the only time that you'll receive, and then you'll also receive an email confirmation of your purchase. In that email confirmation is also a link to click the download file. And then after that, every other pattern will be delivered by my MailChimp delivery service. And when you click download there, most times it's opening up in your browser so that you can see the pattern in your browser, and you should be able to then download it. Okay. So does that answer the majority of common questions that we're getting?
I think so.
Okay. I think it does. We're getting, those are the main questions. Downloading, I need you to look in your, figure out where your download file is, because most often you're downloading multiple times. not knowing where your download file goes. And then your emails are being delivered, except in the case of people who've unsubscribed. Then that makes it really hard for me to deliver your pattern. But most of those people I've talked to, and we've worked that out. Okay, so I'm going to go back up. We've got lots of comments, so I'm going to be looking at the comments. And Amelia, as you see some coming through, will you holler at one too?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at comments now and questions. So if you have questions, now is the time to type your question in and I will answer your question. Great to see everybody. So the number one question, first question that I see is, can I still sign up and get the patterns? Yes, collagequilter.com. There's a little bar, a little flag banner at the very top of the page that says click on something about the 12 days of Christmas. Click on that and you can still get everything. Jody, same thing. The patterns are not sold separately, so you will get all 12 of the patterns. If you only want one, you'll still just need to purchase all of them. Okay, so it's $39 to participate. That gives you all the 12 patterns, as well as access to all of the video tutorials that I'm providing and little tidbits that I'm putting in the Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group. Okay, so let's go. Someone just asked, this is a great question. Someone asked, I am confused. Doesn't parchment paper have a wax side and a paper side? No. What you're describing is freezer paper. Parchment paper is different. Parchment paper is the same as baking paper. It's what you line your cookie sheets with when you're going to bake cookies. It's the same on both sides. It's a heat resistant and a non-stick surface on both sides. So parchment paper is the only thing that you can use for this parchment paper, this parchment pressing method. If you end up using freezer paper in place of parchment paper, you're going to be sorely disappointed because once you press it, you won't be able to peel it off. And that's the beauty of using parchment paper. So I've got this little thing applied here, and now I've got parchment paper on the back and I can peel it off like a sticker. Now it's got steam on the back and I can apply that to my fabric, the background fabric. So that's the beauty of parchment paper. It's not the same thing as freezer paper. So I hope that answered your question. Okay, let's see if there are other questions.
There's a ton.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. Do you want to help me sort through the questions?
Yeah, do you want me to just read them to you?
Uh-huh.
Okay, someone said, doesn't it shrink once you quilt it? My quilts always seem to shift a bit when I quilt.
Yes. Okay, so someone asked a really good question. Will this block size shrink a little bit? Yes. In fact, I measured this out and this block went from 11 inches to about 10.5 inches, but it doesn't matter as long as I'm cutting everything about the same size. So I'm cutting the background, 1 inch larger than I am than I'm cutting the front. And so as long as that's consistent and my quilting is all consistent, it's dense, pretty dense quilting. And when I say dense quilting, I mean my quilting is quite dense. I like quilting that is about 1/4 of an inch between stitch lines. And so they're going to match up okay. The other nice thing is we've got this seam in front that we're going to cover. And so if things are a little ski-wampus, we're going to cover that whole seam anyway. So don't worry if there's a few things that are a little bit off. It'll work out great. Just trust me. Okay, so other questions, Amelia?
Do you think this can be done as a regular quilt, not quilt as you go?
Absolutely. So somebody just said, can this be done as a regular quilt versus quilt as you go? Absolutely. You can choose to treat this as a regular quilt top rather than quilt as you go. So if that's the way you want to do it, be my guest. I just wanted to do something on my domestic machine and just kind of play with my stitching a little bit more. So feel free to lay this all out as a traditional quilt top by, you know, creating your blocks, piecing them together, and treating that as a traditional quilt top.
Okay, next one.
Okay, next question.
Are you only quilting the design or both design and background using different colored thread for each?
Okay, great question. So somebody said, are you only quilting the design or are you quilting the background too? I am quilting the whole block. So if you can see here, I've got my design quilted, and then you can see also that I've quilted the background too. So the entire block is quilted. Next question.
How wide will the finished sashing be?
Someone asked, how wide will the finished sashing be? I don't know yet. I haven't decided. We'll make sure that I just want to make sure that it's wide enough so that it covers up the seam and doesn't cover up too much of, you know, I don't want it to cover this up. So it's going to be wide enough to cover the seam, meaning it'll have to be a minimum of a 1/2 inch. It'll probably be like a 5/8 to an inch, but I will work on that, and we'll let you know on that. Next question.
What size is the background for the Nutcracker? It's like 11 by 24.
So the background for the Nutcracker is going to go in the center of your quilt. So the way this is going to be laid out is you're going to have 3 across the top, and then you'll have 2 down, the Nutcracker in the center, and then 3 across the bottom. And then the last block is going to be something that we can use to embellish the whole quilt or to put on either the sashing or the binding. And I'm kind of excited to show you that. So just think of that the Nutcracker has to be the same size. Now he's in the middle, so I don't recommend trimming him up until you've got everything else taken care of. So don't trim the background. Keep him 11 inches wide. That will be fine. But as far as height, that's going to be, we need to adjust that according to the size that we do on our sashing. So don't trim the background of the Nutcracker quite yet. Next question.
How do you finish the sashing on the front side of the blocks after joining them?
We will be doing a little bit like it'll be a double fold and stitching along that way. So I'll do a demonstration of that later in the week. You'll watch for that. Okay. So the question was, how are we going to apply the sashing? I will do a recorded video, and share that with you towards the end of the week. Or yeah, I mean, I want to have the quilt finished by the live video next week. So that's a week from today. I want to have the whole quilt finished. So you can expect a recorded video to be uploaded to YouTube and the Collage Quilter Facebook Academy or Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group, demonstrating how I apply the sashing. And so there will be more details coming about the sashing.
Okay, you match thread to background, but you change thread color for the design, and you always keep the back of the design thread the same color regardless of the top thread color.
Okay, so this is a question about thread color. I always match my thread color to the fabric, whether it's the background. I always match it to the background. And this, as I have said, this is the only quilting that I've done that has thread that is meant to stand out. Everything else that I've done is matched. So the red, I matched the red, I matched the green, and this is just a really, really quilted with a really, really light green thread. Let me show you some of these others. This one is kind of a gold thread that I've done on vertical here, green thread here, and then red thread on and then I even changed to do gold thread. So I always I never say always. I shouldn't say that because there's always an exception. But the only exception really is the holly leaves. Okay, next question.
Okay, someone said it looks like you added 1 inch on each side. Is that right?
Correct. Well, no. So I'm going to tell you again, the back side of each project is 1 inch larger than the front of the block. So I started out, this is an 11-inch block, and I cut this at 12 inches. So always think it's 1 inch larger. If you're doing quilt as you go, if you're not going to do quilt as you go, you don't need to worry about that.
How many yards of background fabric do I need, and how many yards for backing fabric?
Great question. So somebody just asked, how many yards do I need of background fabric and how many yards do I need of backing fabric? And I will have to calculate that. It's going to be roughly 36 inches by 48 inches total background fabric. But it depends on if you're going to do different blocks. So great question about the quantity of fabric needed for your background and the back. And I will answer that question after I calculate everything precisely and put it in the Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group. Next question.
How do we pick fabric for the backgrounds?
Someone asked, how do we pick fabrics for the backgrounds? Well, let's talk about that. Okay, so the best way that I know to pick background fabric is to, number one, think about, do you want your background fabric to be all different, or do you want it to be all the same? So some of the people I've seen in the Facebook group have used all the same, or they've alternated it with alternate blocks have the same fabric. Ultimately, the way you're going to select your background fabric is to audition different fabrics. So that's what I did with each of mine. I pulled out a bunch of different fabrics. I kind of knew in my head, though, that I wanted this to be a little bit whimsical and I wanted all the backgrounds to be different. So that's first. I started out first knowing that I wanted to have fabric that was different behind each block, or sometimes I might have used the same fabric, but I wanted it to be kind of whimsical. I didn't want it to be the same. So the next thing was I just started pulling fabrics out to see what looks good together, and I would lay my collage project on top and just see what it looked like. And that's the best way I know how to select background fabric. Just audition different fabric pieces for the background. Okay, next question.
So right now you're only sewing the seams together, no folding over?
So right now, all I've done is I've stitched along this, I've opened it up, and then I did press that seam open, but you don't necessarily have to press it open. You can press it to the side too. So that's all I've done. And I am not going to do, I just wanted to demonstrate to you what we're doing. But I'll have everything put together by the end of the week to share with you in some pictures and videos. So I'm not sure if I answered that question. I don't know if I understand that question entirely. So, okay, next question.
Is the thread you use on the back of the quilt a different color from the front?
Yeah, sometimes it is. So this question was thread color. Is it different on the back from what it is on the front? A lot of times. For example, let's take this one, for instance. So all of the blocks that I'm using on the back are green. So the whole back of my quilt is going to be different variations of green. And they'll just be different blocks, right? So you can see all of those. So it's going to be a really scrappy looking quilt. But the question was, am I changing my thread color? So yes, this is a green thread, versus the gold here on front. And so I do change. I keep a different color thread in my bobbin based on what I've got going on the background, on the back side. Okay. Next question.
About how much steam a seam should one get for the entire project?
Oh, that is a tricky question. So someone asked, how much steam a seam should I get for the entire project? That is a really hard calculation. And it really is flexible because depending on the variety of fabric that you're selecting. So I would start out with, on Collage Quilter, we sell, the steam a seam that we sell is in bundles of 3. So we sell in each steam a seam packet, there are 5 9x13 sheets of steam a seam in each one. And when you purchase it, you get 3 of those. So that's a good amount to get started. And I always recommend before, and you'll see this in each pattern, so after I've selected my fabric, let me see if I can find, okay. So this is a good size. I will cut my fabric to about this size to about this size, depending on how much of it I think I'm going to use. And then I prepare it with the steam a seam. So if you want to do a larger variety of fabric, just cut your pieces smaller. And this is going to give you a lot of fabric to work with. And one packet from Collage Quilter should, okay, one packet should get you a good start. Okay. Amelia had to walk away for a second. So I'm on my own to look at questions. Let me take a sip of water because when I talk, my throat gets dry. Oh, we just had somebody hop on from Denmark. Welcome. Okay, Anna just said, I've been unable to print the Gingerbread Man. Is there a fix? And the fix is just email me, emily@collagequilter.com. Let me know that you're having a hard time with the gingerbread, and I will resend that pattern to you. In fact, that's the case with any of them, although I know all of the emails have gone out, and that's the only one that had a little glitch with it. Oh, we have someone from Italy too. Awesome. How fun. And Colombia. My goodness gracious. How fun. Okay, let's see. And San Diego, great to see you. And New Zealand. Awesome. Okay, I'm just scrolling down, checking on more questions. Okay. I'm looking at questions to make sure I'm answering everything. Amelia got ahead of me. Wait, welcome from England. Let's see, and Canada. Okay, here's a good question. Susan just asked, could you describe how to access the videos for the previous blocks? So up until now, there has been only one live video. That live video is available on my YouTube channel and in the Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group. Let me tell you how to find that. So there's a menu bar on the Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group. Depending on the device that you're on and how wide your screen is, it might say media, or you might see a more button. Click the more button, look for the media button, and under the media tab, under media, you'll find photos and videos and files. Click on the video tab and you'll see all the live videos that I've done and all the videos. So there's been one live video which I did last week, and there's been one recorded video that demonstrates how to use the Sass Template technique for the Nutcracker, or like I just showed you today, how to do like we did with the berry. So those should be in the Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group under media and videos.
And YouTube.
And they're on YouTube. Well, we need to put the other one on YouTube still. the recorded video. I'll put that on YouTube as well. Okay, so let me keep going. Amelia, do you want to
How many questions did you just answer?
well, I don't know where you wound up.
Have you answered this? Will you be having complete kits for the entire quilt?
So somebody just asked a question, will you be having a kit for the complete quilt? No, because all of the green fabric that I've used, except the background. So all of the green fabric and all of the red fabric that I've used in each of the collages is part of my red fabric bundle and my green fabric bundle. Those fabric bundles are available on collagequilter.com under supplies. So that is gonna really go far for you. So we're not providing the background fabric. I'm going to leave that up to you. Going forward, we will have kits available next year. I think I mentioned that. And I'm debating, Amelia doesn't want to hear me say this, but I'm debating about bringing back the winter cardinal kit. We'll see.
No time.
Amelia says there's no time. Okay. Let's keep going. Can you see some other questions that we need to answer? See what a perfect little snuggly blanket this is going to be.
I think you already talked about this, but just go over it again. Will you provide the layout of your blocks?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody said, will you provide the layout of your blocks? Absolutely. 100%. You're going to see a lot of updates on the quilt this week. Okay. So we've been working on collage last week. We're still going to have collage, but the collage patterns that you're going to get are a lot easier this week. So we've got the worst behind us, and now we're going to just start assembling everything. Okay.
At what point do you steam the design? After does it adhere to the background fabric?
Okay. Someone asked a great question. At what point do you steam the project? So when you are applying to parchment paper, always use a dry iron. That will adhere all these pieces together. And then you can apply these to your background fabric. When you have the composition as you like it on your background fabric, then you will steam it. And then, so I mean steam, steam, steam. And it's going to soften up those pieces that have steam-a-seam on them, okay? So only after you are satisfied with the composition of your block will you steam it. Next question.
Do you have any suggestions for people who want to make these into pillows?
Oh, yes. So someone just said, do you have any suggestions for people who want to make this into pillows? I love making pillows. So what I would do is, number one, find the pillow insert, the size of the pillow insert. I would keep it square, probably. I don't know that I would do the Nutcracker as a pillow because it would be long and thin, but any of the others, or you could create any sort of composition using any of the designs to create a pillow. But make sure that you know what your pillow insert is. And then I think we have a blog post about making a pillow, and I would just do an envelope back on it. If not, it's in the Take Flight book. There are step-by-step instructions in my Take Flight book about creating a pillow, an envelope pillow. But let me also show you this one. Okay, here are my suggestions. Quilt the whole thing. So this is obviously this is a pillow. Quilt the entire thing. And then when you do the background, and I've got, like I said, I've got all the measurements and instructions on the back, but I like having the envelope a little bit lower. Make sure that the envelope goes horizontal. Do not do an envelope that goes vertical. And this is great because look at that. I can open it up and change this out anytime I want. So let me see. Don't you think we have a blog post about that? If I
Well, I know
don't,
the Simple Sublime is
Simple Sublime
a pillow,
probably
right?
has it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I do somewhere. So anyway, those are my tips, okay, about making a pillow. More questions, Amelia?
I don't see any more new questions.
Okay, no more new questions. I'm sure as we continue with this, you will have more questions. And as you have questions, go ahead and put them in the Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group. That is such a wonderful format to be able to communicate with me and ask questions of other users. Okay, I just saw a question come in. Amelia, did you see that one
Yeah.
about my bows?
My bows, where it turns and you see the inside and outside, doesn't look right. Any suggestions? Probably don't like the.
Yeah, let's look at that. So there are two bows.
It's all about values.
Yep.
Values.
Okay, so here are the two bows. These are the most complex thing I think that we have worked on, and you guys, for the most part, really nailed it. So the key with the bows is to make sure that you have a good spectrum of value, a good value spectrum. So I've got really, really dark all the way up to the really, really light, and then I have transitional colors. So I think that's my number one tip. If it's not looking right, you probably don't have enough contrast between those colors. Think about broadening your spectrum so that you have enough high contrast. Once you have high contrast between those two, then make sure that you have the transition pieces. So what I mean by that is, let me show you what I mean. Let's take a few pieces of fabric. Okay, so let's just pretend these are pretty high contrast, right? But if I pull in something like this, now that is very high contrast, and then this becomes a transition color. Okay, so do you see the value changes in that from light, medium to dark? But of course, I like to use lots of different fabrics. So then I would just add fabrics to those values. So I would add that one to this one maybe, or maybe that would be a fourth value like that. So I think the thing is to just pay very, very close attention to the values on the template to help you with your bows. Okay, someone just said, Karen just said, I love your basket of green fabrics behind you. So those are my fabric bundles. My daughter has been busy packaging those, getting ready for Black Friday. It's coming up, but these are the bundles that I was talking about. They are fantastic, and my fabric bundles contain 18 pieces of fabric in a spectrum from light to dark and warm to cool. So they are really, really helpful. Okay.
Did you see the question about your book?
No, I didn't.
Someone said, are there lots of changes to the second edition of your book?
Ah, good question. Okay, so someone asked, so I have written a book called Collage Quilter: Essentials for Success with Collage Quilts. I have just released the second edition of that book. And the reason I wrote a second edition is because I am evolving and learning and innovating as an artist. So in the second edition, I'm sharing techniques that I hadn't even like created yet in the first one. And so is it worth it to upgrade to the new book? I think so. That's why I wrote it. I think that I've put enough new content in there, as well as new projects. So you're getting new projects and new content, and I think it's overall a much improved book. So that's my 2 cents on the second edition. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't think it was worth it. Okay.
How much are the bundles?
The bundles are, what are they? 35. Yeah, the bundles are $35. So there you have it. And they do sell out. but we will be having some stuff go on sale for Black Friday through Cyber Monday, right, Amelia?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just a little plug there, you guys. Any other questions? Oh, I can't read Spanish.
Hold on, I'm translating. that
Okay,
right now.
Amelia's translating for our Spanish speakers.
What I think she asked what fusible you use. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So someone asked what fusible I use. My preference is, and I am pretty firm on this preference, Light Steam Seam 2. It's from the Warm Company. Now, Steam Seam is a little screwy because they have multiple different products. Look for the Light Steam Seam 2. That's what I recommend, and that's the one that I sell on my website on collagequilter.com. Okay.
All right, that's all the new questions.
Okay. I think we've hopefully answered most of your questions. Again, if I haven't, somebody just pointed out these would be great in a table runner. Absolutely. And I've thought they would make the cutest placemats too. So anyway, have fun. I want you to be creative with how you're using them. And I want you to just have fun with this. So hopefully this has given you a good challenge and that you've enjoyed learning something new. I know we have lots of people who have never done a collage quilt before. So I really hope that this has been helpful for you to learn how to do this. Okay, I think that's it, right, Amelia?
Yes.
Okay. I'm signing off. Let's stay in touch in the Collage Quilter Facebook Academy, the Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me, emily@collagequilter.com. Thank you so much for being here, y'all. We will see you again next week at the same time with a finished quilt. And in between that, now and then, I will continue to share tips about how to proceed with your quilt. Okay, have fun. See you later.